So if heroes exist to disappoint, then I'm lucky. All of mine were either dead just before I discovered them or else they kicked the bucket shortly after. It's like my fandom is malignant. Bill Hicks, Mitch Hedberg, Spalding Gray, Mark Sandman, Sarah Kane. Once I'm on your side, the angel of death is on his fucking way. It's because pain manifested as profundity is the stuff I'm after, an achievement that the living never get to enjoy, because people in pain are fucking insufferable. And I'm speaking as one of those insufferable when I say this. I have been since birth. I was a sad baby. A sad baby whose only apparent genius was for discovering new causes of melancholy. Other mothers can talk all they want about what a holy terror their kid was. Mine will lapse into a 1,000-yard stare and shake her head at the very memory of early motherhood. Not because I threw temper tantrums or wouldn't eat my food or hit other kids. No. That's not how you get your mom to drink half a bottle of wine every night. No. You need to be the 5-year-old who wanders into her bedroom at midnight to commiserate about the inevitability of death and the nothingness that awaits us all. Now that's how you announce to the world, I got the depression. When you're going about the business of choosing your heroes, it's very important to not stray too far from familiar waters, or you risk just making everything worse. Imagine, if you will, a 40-year-old bathroom attendant with a bedroom full of astronaut posters waiting for him back home. That guy's gonna blow his fucking brains out all over Buzz Aldrin's face one day because he did not think that through. Now, I've never actually made a plan to kill myself per se. Suicide's really more of an exit strategy, if we're being technical, than a plan, but I do understand how a person gets there, whether it's by the express route or the scenic path. So, sticking to what I know, Bill Hicks, Mitch Hedberg, Spalding Gray, Mark Sandman, Sarah Kane. They were all so fucked up, sure. Some of them, shitty partners. Some of them lacked impulse control. People in pain are fucking insufferable, but god damn it, sometimes they make really good art. Now, depression does not help a person's creativity. Totally the opposite, in fact. It's actually like trying to barbecue while holding an angry cat. But the idea that all that time wasted in worry, years if you actually stop and total it all up, all those bad decisions committed in the name of self-medication, could actually be redeemed with hard work, that worked for me. And I managed to graduate high school because of it and move to the one place in America where self-loathing is a required condition of residency, New York City. And there I made friends, mostly with people who also should have probably been in therapy, but like me, opted to just drink instead. And some of us even actually formed a regular group therapy session that met every Friday at the St. Mark's Ale House. Our greatest talent was for playing whack-a-mole with each other's happiness. But that bar was like a train compartment. And as long as we kept our eyes on each other and our glasses full and our teeth sharp, it looked like we were doing pretty all right for ourselves. And whenever I beat the other alehouse writers to Astor Place, I'd kill time by going to the neighborhood GameStop. Now, I hadn't played a video game in years, but standing among those clean, white shelves with their little boxes of distraction, it was like a nostalgic, regressive womb. Made everything feel better. And on one of those visits in 2005, this guy walks in who looked like the kind of New Yorker you get used to seeing once you settle yourself in. You know, vaguely homeless, out of shape, comfortable in their eccentricities, sweatpants galore. Now, these guys either they live with their parents their whole lives, or they have some marketable genius that some NYU kid eventually makes a documentary out of, you know, like clockmaking. But I recognized this particular lunatic, and he was none fucking other than Philip Seymour Hoffman. And I loved fucking Philip Seymour Hoffman. Even more so because now he's in a fucking GameStop. And this is back, when he was still the darling of independent cinema during its twilight years. He was that rare genius who could still transition to Hollywood blockbuster shit, but still shine through the crap. He was the opposite of a sellout. He'd bought in, and he made the studios dance to his tune, even though his fame game came from being the guy who ejaculated on postcards and stalker-called women in happiness. He was exactly the guy who, statistically speaking, should never have been a superstar. Sweaty, overweight, and terribly awkward. And the fact that he actually made it made me feel like there's a place for anybody in this world. And on top of that, he was still very much alive. So in the Manhattan fashion of cramming suburban mall chain stores next to national treasures, the Joe Papp Public Theater stood just across the street from the GameStop. And Hoffman was directing the last days of Judas Iscariot there at the time, which I knew from being a theater nerd. So he just must have been killing time also with me. And watching him ponder the merits of BioShock over Portal, that just felt more intimate than anything I could imagine him saying to me. And preserving the guy's anonymity felt like a kinder gesture than anything I could say to him, so I didn't, ever. As far as I could tell, no one else there ever recognized him. So he left after a few minutes without buying anything, and I ran off to the ale house and told him all about it, and that was a mistake. Unironic excitement is met with fear and distaste in New England. But they did bring to my attention one very worthy fact of introspection, that was the first and only time I'd ever appeared genuinely starstruck, and god damn it, I was. Watching a famous person do the thing that made them famous never did much for me beyond appreciation of the craft involved. But Hoffman, who looked at the time like someone who in the very near future might be arrested while trying to kill a pigeon in Washington Square Park during a psychotic episode, he was doing all of the things I ever wanted to do and managing to be a father and a husband and a fucking nerd about it. And that opened up this whole new possibility to the ending of the story I'd been writing for myself. It might be a whole hell of a lot more work, but you can always separate the really mentally ill from the tourists by who doesn't care about having a happy ending. I ran into Hoffman about 3 more times in that GameStop, and I never said a word to him or to anybody else about it happening. And then his play opened, and he must have found a new GameStop because that was the last I ever saw of him. Years went by, and like wine and cheese, I just became more pungent in the qualities I always ever had. And a fast learner was never one of those things I've been accused of. I'd still never gone to see a shrink. I said meds were for the weak, and all the tough guy thoughts that a person thinks when they're terrified of having to actually start paying down their debts. My work at the time sent me overseas, and I caught a little bit of a very long war. And when I got back, all the alehouse gang had dispersed, leaving me without a friend to call in the entire city. It was Thanksgiving, also, to boot, which is one of the many, many great holidays out there that's designed to kill people who are already in the dumps. But thankfully, this acquaintance I had took pity on me and invited me to a party of sorts that someone was throwing at a rich guy's condo, someone else was cat-sitting for somewhere near the West Side. Nobody ever really knows anybody for very long in New York. But it was raining, and the streets were empty except for clusters of loudly laughing families, all heading to and from the pray-fee dinners that I still couldn't afford at 28 and still apparently don't know how to pronounce. And once I crossed over into that West Side where all the bars give way to rows of $1 million single-room apartments, I spotted this lone, bearded dude standing outside of a doorway in the drizzle in front of me, smoking profusely. And in that moment of improvisation, I decided I was going to have myself a lonely guy bonding moment. So as I came up on him and we hit that New York sweet spot of physical distance, So it's like close enough to not have to shout, but still far enough away to not be able to commit violence on each other without some warning happening. We looked up at each other and I said, fucking Thanksgiving, right? And fucking Philip Seymour Hoffman, with his nervous eyes and camel lights, said back to me, fucking yeah, I know. And I could tell he really did. That was this tortured soul of a great man on display during an unguarded moment of vulnerability while I was trying to calm his demons or fucking something. I don't know, whatever, I'm projecting. But the point is that I felt in that moment that I recognized that. He was still keeping on, and it made me feel really good to know that about him. I told the story of our encounter at the party that night and at many, many, many parties that followed after the years. Parties that I enjoyed less and less and less until I finally gave up the act. I got help. It sucked. It was wonderful, but it didn't change anything really except keeping that possibility on the table for a happy ending, where it remains right next to a full glass of whiskey until it either makes good or at least makes some fucking good art. I was in Los Angeles when Hoffman died of a heroin overdose in 2014. My girlfriend at the time, she didn't know why I was quiet for the rest of our trip, and I didn't have the words to tell her. I'm a slow learner. I'm a shitty partner. People in pain can be fucking insufferable. I was thinking about Hoffman's wife and children upstairs during Thanksgiving, about what they must have thought about the fact that he needed to go outside in the rain to smoke shitty cigarettes alone while they were waiting for him. I was thinking about my girlfriend, what she thought about the time, about the fact that I needed to do the same thing from time to time and what that might have meant. And there's no pretending that I'll ever really know what was going on through his head the night I met him that last time in the rain, alone when so many people were among good company indoors. For all I know, he was just trying to he was just trying to sneak a smoke and a fart, and some asshole came up at him and said, "Hi." I'll never know if he ever wandered into his mother's room at some surreal hour to discuss mortality, but fuck, I wish to God I'd asked him. He was the first living hero I ever met who struggled and survived until he didn't. And I didn't know it until he died, but I'd been rooting for him all along. Not to light up the sky so bright that it looked even more impossibly darker after his passing. The sky is dark enough as it is, man. I just wanted to applaud his quiet exit, the one he might have took long before his final bow came, where he could go and find a garden somewhere where he could be happy as a father and a husband and himself, and where maybe one day I'd run into him again, that third time we were meant to cross paths, and where I'd finally be in a place where I could say to him, "Fuck, isn't it nice out today?" Thank you.
That was Justin Hudnall, everyone. Justin Hudnall.